It had 19 sanatoriums, restaurants and even a cinema. In the 60s, it went into decline and the family's dream was dashed. It was in this complex of 19 buildings that the history of Caramulo began, but since the 1960s, no one seems to care about many of the buildings that still remain from the sanatorium that became one of the most important in Europe. Practically forgotten since April 25th, some buildings have been restored, others demolished, but 6 still remain completely abandoned, including the main building where it all began. When Jerónimo de Lacerda opened the Grande Hotel in 1922, he was far from imagining that he was making history in Portugal. In Paredes do Guardão, as the town of Caramulo was known at the time, in the municipality of Tondela, at the time the doctor only thought about the potential of the good air of the mountains to receive convalescent guests at the time without tuberculosis. But Jerónimo de Lacerda was an ambitious man. After the hotel built at an altitude of 800 meters, which became a sanatorium 6 years later when it began to receive tuberculosis patients, came another 18 buildings including sanatoriums, infirmaries, health homes and a surgery pavilion, restaurants, cafes, cinema and even a radio station. The Tondela doctor thought of everything: energy, water, even a sewage system. A technician was sent from Berlin to study the best solution for the location. By the way, the Estância Sanatorial do Caramulo was the first to have basic sanitation at the national level. A network of roads was also designed. At the time the connections were terrible, vegetable gardens were cultivated and orchards were planted. Forest services were even created to afforest the mountains. Jerónimo de Lacerda dedicated his life to Serra do Caramulo. The first steps were taken here to found the town of Caramulo, the first Portuguese town to be planned from scratch, and the place became the largest sanatorium in Europe. The fame became worldwide, and no wonder, in fact, the cures took place. In 1945, Jerónimo de Lacerda died following a heart attack, and the legacy passed to his children. Abel, the eldest son, left his economic and financial sciences course, he later completed his studies, to take control of the ranch. In the 1950s, Abel, an economist, and João, a doctor, decided that it was time to give the resort a new life. Advances in medicine showed that very soon the place could no longer be needed. It was at this time that the brothers tried to enter the tourism sector. Abel, passionate about art, and João, a car fanatic, decided to build a building, each to display their collections. The estate remained until today. However, there was no longer any salvation for the Estância Sanatorial do Caramulo. 10 years later, it went into decline. After April 25, 1974, there was nothing left to do. The last sanatorium closed permanently in 1986. Not all buildings were left in ruins. In the 90s, the Salazar Sanatorium, at the time intended for members of the army, became the Hotel do Caramulo. The sanatorium next door is now home to the Institute for Stress Prevention and Occupational Health. There were other projects that were transformed into residential buildings and retirement homes. Others were even less fortunate. 3 were demolished because there was a risk of them collapsing. The remaining 6 remain forgotten there, 2 more that are partly in ruins. In the children's sanatorium, for example, the structure of one of the outdoor swings still survives. In the surgery pavilion there is still a rusty medical stretcher. The Estância Sanatorial do Caramulo was more than a sanatorium construction. It was the construction of a pioneering urban concept, elaborated with responsibility and health security. Its creation developed the first basic sanitation plan at national level and a series of infrastructures: small hydroelectric dam, first automated telephone network, post office, radio station, cowshed, central laundry, etc. All thought to make Caramulo a self-sufficient village. The historical context is fundamental to understand the process of rise and decline of the sanatorium village. The implementation of the Estância Sanatorial do Caramulo in that part of the mountain was responsible for the marked transformation of the place, building sanatoriums with avant-garde architectures for the time. However, the evolution of medicine against tuberculosis announced the end of the need for hospitalizations and sanatorium facilities, thus leaving a problem: what to do and/or how can we transform the use of these now obsolete facilities and buildings? The answer to this question are varied. Some of the buildings have been transformed into houses, others in homes for the elderly, others demolished, and others are vacant and in doom. The dissertation's main motivation is to highlight the historical importance of Vila do Caramulo and provide a set of information that allows a more sensitive look at this heritage. In this 4-episode series, we will visit some ruined and abandoned sanatoriums. In one of the episodes, we will visit the Grand Sanatorium that still existed at the time and has now been demolished. Until the date of these episodes, the remaining sanatoriums still exist in ruins and abandonment. Episode 2: Children's Sanatorium. The Manuel Tápia Children's Sanatorium was built in 1944 to house 50 children, tuberculosis, Santos 2015, and is named after the Spanish doctor who helped in the construction of this resort. In addition to the initial phase, when consulting the SIPA records, 2 more phases of construction of the building, 1955 and 1958, shown in the figure. The first phase is the construction of the building designed by architect Pardal Monteiro, whose project was not executed exactly as the author predicted, as there were some adaptations. One of them was the construction system of the facade, reflecting the execution of the openings of this main plane, which were originally designed by a triolithic system of reinforced concrete, but arches made of solid ceramic brick, dividing each of the original spans in 2. The second phase involves the addition of 2 bodies, one to the northwest and another to the southwest. The body to the northwest was already foreseen in the architect's project, but was only built in 1955 as stated in the SIPA archives. In the third phase, more 2 bodies, both to the northwest. The building presents a complex volume with many cuts and edges, but at first it was L-shaped with a semi-octagon at the southeast tip. The new bodies were designed to intersect with the original, with 3 of the 4 new volumes interfered with the design and structure of the roof. In the second phase of construction, the annex of the southwest side followed the pre-existing octagonal geometric design, which goes from the ground floor to the 3rd floor. The one on the northwest side, due to the slope of the land, complemented the volume on the 2nd and 3rd floors, as well as those on the 3rd phase. However, one of them, the smallest, only increased the area of the 2nd floor, whose roof is a flat slab. The roof has a triangular geometry whose height is equivalent to 1 floor. In the original design of the project, circulation on the northwest side was in a comb which allowed later make additions without damaging the pre-existing spatial distribution. The same occurred with the annex to the southwest. The pre-existing structure was used. The main one is through the stone staircase that connects the street level to the second floor, and the service floor is at the back of the building, also on the second floor level. To access the ground floor, you need to be on the second floor to descend the wooden staircase that it can be found in the main atrium or on the southwest side. But there is no access formalized. It is necessary to cross the garden across the grass without any paving.